Imagine giving birth to a baby, and while in the hospital recovering, your child is kidnapped. That is the terrifying story out of Italy that we're going to be breaking down for you. And wait till you hear how this went down, and we're still trying to figure out what the alleged motive may have been. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so this is absolutely terrifying. We're going to go overseas for this one. This is in Cosenza, Italy, more specifically. So just a few days ago, baby Sophia was born. And just 24 hours after she was born, she was allegedly kidnapped from a maternity ward. This is crazy. This is apparently all captured on CCTV footage from the Sacro Cuore Hospital, as reported by the Daily Mail. I apologize if I butchered that, but, my best Italian, there you go. So you have a woman who's dressed in a nurse's uniform, wearing a face mask, I'm going to guess it's not for health reasons, maybe more of a disguise, is seen carrying Sophia and taking this baby out with the help of a man. Now, as frightening as this situation is, there is a happy resolution here, because just hours later, these alleged culprits were caught. The Mirror UK reporting that they were found in a car on the Outer Banks of this city. This was before the car had entered onto the highway. The Daily Mail identifying them as 53-year-olds Rosa Vespa and Aqua Moses, although other outlets say that Vespa is 51 and Moses is 43. Couldn't really get confirmation on that. But here is the good news. Baby Sophia is okay, and she has been returned to her family. In fact, Sophia's mother, Valeria Cipiata, was reportedly very emotional when her daughter was returned to her, thanking police and saying, "We had died, but now we are reborn. We had lost all hope." She added, "I want to thank everyone involved for bringing little Sophia back to us. People have been messaging from all over, and I wish I could thank everyone personally, but there are thousands." And she also added, "It is thanks to the police and the entire city who helped us find little Sophia. We can't thank everyone enough." Now, this is not even the wildest part of this whole story. What do I mean by that? Well, how did these suspects allegedly pull this off? So according to the Mirror UK, the pair allegedly got into the hospital claiming they were family members of the newborn wanting to see this baby. And then the woman, allegedly Vespa, pretended to be a nurse, allegedly told Sophia's mom that she had to take the baby to the pediatric unit for a checkup. But that is when she's allegedly seen on the video carrying the baby and trying to put her in a carry cot before leaving. Now, the family ends up realizing that Sophia never returns. That is when all chaos breaks loose to try to find where is this baby. And now you might be saying, well, why would somebody do this? Well, according to a police spokesperson that spoke with the Daily Mail, this female suspect had been allegedly telling people for months that she was pregnant. Even posted on social media a few days ago, before the birth of this baby, that she gave birth to a baby boy. The online post read, "After a long wait, our miracle has arrived. At 8 p.m. today, Ansel was born. Mom and Dad love you." And accompanying that post was apparently a photo showing the arm of a baby. Wow, I know. And when Sophia was rescued, according to the police, she had actually been changed from a Minnie Mouse outfit into a baby boy outfit. Essentially, police are indicating this was planned out. And when law enforcement reportedly searched the female suspect's home, it apparently was decorated for the arrival of a new baby, balloons and everything. And the question, of course, is, how could this happen? Could it have been prevented? What's next? Well, the hospital will reportedly launch an investigation into how this occurred, but according to the Daily Mail, they also came out and said, quote, "The CCTV worked perfectly and helped us locate those responsible quickly and reunite the child with her family." Talking about a scary situation, by the way, let me tell you about something else. You might not know about this. Did you know that your personal data is being harvested and sold online by data brokers? Yeah, anyone can buy your personal information, your personal details. And when that happens, you're at risk for a whole host of things: identity theft, becoming a target of phishing scams, potential stalking. But that is why I'm so happy to tell you about our sponsor, Delete Me. So Delete Me helps you keep your personal information private. And I use Delete Me. Honestly, crazy what I found. Over 24 brokers with my personal information, so many listings having my data. But again, Delete Me was able to remove all that. And doing that myself, yourself, that would have taken like an 8-hour workday. But they also keep monitoring the sites for you, so your information doesn't find its way back on there after the first removal. And honestly, using Delete Me has also given me peace of mind about my family too, because if someone buys your data via a data broker, they can see information about your relatives too. So right now you can get 20% off of Delete Me and protect your personal data when you go to joindeleteme.com/sidebar. Use promo code sidebar at checkout. Okay, let's get back into this. I want to talk about this more with retired NYPD detective, friend of the show, Tom Smith, who has had experience with international kidnapping cases. Tom, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. How lucky is this family to have their baby back?
Oh, extremely lucky. The luckiest people in the world at that moment, because this could have went real bad really quick. And as much planning as was put into this, of the premeditation of it, the escape plan wasn't that great. And that's why they were able to get them as quick as possible. And criminals sometimes do that. They will lay out how to do a crime, how to pull it off, but the next step and escape route always gets screwed up a little bit. And thankfully, that's what happened here. And I can't say enough about the quick response of the police involved in getting the information out and responding there. That's what saved this baby's life.
Based on the limited information we have, do you get the sense that this was specifically targeting this baby, or finding a baby, whether it was a girl or boy, and pretending it was a boy? I mean, based on the idea of the social media post and what was found at the home and just the overall, crime that was committed here. Talk to us about what you think might have been going on here.
Yeah, I don't think at this moment there's any connection between the perpetrators and the family. I think it was just a matter of getting up on that floor and seeing the opportunity that was in front of them, and seeing that family holding a baby. That was their spot. And, like I said, the quick actions prevented this from being bad. But the premeditation of this is so scary and maniacal and diabolical. And that's what the scary part is. And hopefully the steps that the hospital is going to take and others are going to take to prevent this from happening again.
This is not the first case you've seen of a baby being kidnapped from a hospital, right? I mean, what precautions are being put in place? How does something like this happen?
No, not at all. It happens. It happened a lot years ago, more when stricter security was put into place in hospitals with color coordinated wristbands and, entry into certain areas that have a security guard there or somewhat having to show ID to get in there. That's what needs to be done with this. The statement of, well, the CCTV worked is horrible. That's not a preventative tactic when it comes to securing newborn babies. Yes, it worked, but that is not your sole security purpose of CCTVs. You need to have more of a lockdown in those areas that are the most vulnerable people maybe in that hospital.
Do you think it's a matter of having the appropriate key cards to get from one space to the next? Is it having the appropriate, identification? Still not clear how she was able to be dressed up like a nurse and have those materials, and how he was able to get in. Again, I mentioned the idea of that they pretended to be family members, or allegedly pretended to be family members. But in your experience in these kinds of cases, what changes do you see happening?
Well, the identification of people right at the beginning of entering that hospital has to be done. You have to stop it even before they get to a maternity ward or get even close to any newborns. Identifying people who are waiting in waiting areas where they should be, until maybe you verify it with the family members. Hey, we have 2 family members here. Their names are A, B, and C. Is it okay they come in and visit? That's what needs to be done. You can't wait until the perpetrators that are looking to do this are on the floor and able to do this. It's got to be done way beforehand in sort of a perimeter type thinking.
Talk to me about just generally, because it is a miracle that this baby is okay and returned back to the family. Talk to me about your experience with kidnapping investigations, perhaps international kidnapping investigations. What are the difficulties? What are the challenges? Does the age of the child play a particular factor as well?
Oh, sure. The age is big because it's very easy to disguise a newborn baby in whatever you want. The clothing, how they're carried, being wrapped up a little bit more than having to transport a toddler or an older person, around public. It's much easier to conceal that of a newborn, and that's the challenges. And when it comes to investigations, it depends on the country and where it happens and how it happens. Italy, being a very advanced culture, obviously was able to get right on this with their response and getting the information out to the public. That is so key, Jesse, to involve the public in something like this, because I've said it so many times in other cases that the police can't be everywhere, but the public can be everywhere. And that's what worked in this, to put it out there so quickly. And people's attention perk up a little bit more when it's a child or an infant that's involved in a crime.
But the other problem is with kidnapping an infant or a newborn baby, right, is that child will look different and grow up rapidly. It's different than if you kidnap an adult or you kidnap a juvenile or you kidnap a teenager. You can see what they look like. And a baby, if they're kidnapped and then 6 months down the road or a year down the road, how do you recognize them, right? That's a problem. I'd imagine that's a big issue.
That's a big issue. And then add on top of that, what that child, as they're growing up, is being told. That child's going to think of these two people as his parents or her parents and what they're teaching them. So once it gets to a point of who are you, they're not going to accept that anything bad happened to them or their life is any different than it has been. And that is always a big hurdle when it comes to these cases if they're found later on in life.
What do you think investigators are doing now after baby Sophia was recovered? What's the next step in the investigation?
Well, I think who else, if anyone else was involved, anyone in the hospital, give her any tips on how to get into the hospital, security flaws, so they'll go into a deep dive, even though they're under arrest right now, into their social media, their communications, their phone calls, anything to do with anybody else that may have played a part in this. Did she have an advance heads up of how this hospital worked? That's going to be key. That's what I would focus on. You already got them, but how did all this kind of come into play with entering the hospital?
Yeah, I'm still curious about the why. It almost seems, and I don't know, I'm speculating here, but I'm curious in your experience, was the idea we had to still create the image that I gave birth to a baby and I need to find a baby fast, and I don't know why you had to put on that story, but in your experience, why do we see people, grab newborn babies like this?
Yeah, well, a number of reasons. One, that they can't have children of their own, or at some point in their life, they may have lost a child and have that yearning to have one, but can't again. So that's when the planning of this, it takes months to pull this off, with the visuals of I'm pregnant, I'm getting the house together, I bought a crib, all that. The planning of this takes months to set into play. And that's the wild part of this story. It's not just a split second decision that she went and did this. This was so planned out over months. And, if people are known to her, you have to pull that deception off, because you can't just show up with a newborn baby. So you have to create the perception of being pregnant and going through the normal things that mothers go through and then pulling this off.
And I want to emphasize something else, the comment about the CCTV footage. It is important. I don't know exactly how this pair was tracked down, particularly before they went on the highway, which could have been problematic in and of itself. But I have to imagine the CCTV footage helped, but it is not the end-all be-all, right? Like, we covered the Mangione case, and yes, the surveillance footage is what helped the public actually identify him, or him be identified in that McDonald's. But if he hadn't taken his mask down, CCTV footage, surveillance footage, very helpful, but it might not be enough, right? There are other cases. Look at the death of Rachel Morin, right? That alleged suspect was on that footage out in a different state and couldn't be identified for months. So it's an interesting situation, right? We live in a digital world. Hopefully it's harder to commit a crime and not be tracked than it was, 20 years ago with cell phones and cameras everywhere. But it's still, you see culprits, right, try to evade that in different ways.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a great starting point. It's not a preventative, but it is something that criminals have to think about. Look at banks. Criminals know banks are videoed and recorded, and that's a big preventative of bank robberies. but it's a good starting point to tracking someone if a crime happens. You know, once they have them captured on a video, like that CCTV footage in the hospital, that leads to identifying them on outside perimeter cameras. Okay, there they are walking out of the hospital. There's the car they get in. And then you start just systematically tracking it with other security cameras in the area. That was, the U.S. healthcare murder in Manhattan. That's how they got that. They started it in one location, and then you just piece it together like a puzzle, and that leads to, hopefully an ending. But CCTV is not a end-all be-all preventative. It's a good tool, but not the end-all be-all by any stretch.
Tom Smith, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it breaking it down for us. And listen, the best thing, this has been a very, very successful resolution. Baby Sophia is okay. She's back with her family. It is amazing to hear because, in this business, it doesn't always work out this way. We see a lot of really bad resolutions to this. But I'm glad that everything's okay. Tom, appreciate your perspective and appreciate your time, as always.
Always a pleasure, Jesse. Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.